May 20th, 2023. Yevgeny Prigozhin stands in the ruins of a city that no longer exists and declares victory.
20 мая 23 года, 20:05:2023. Сегодня пополудня в 12 часов полностью был взят Бахмут. Последний.
Behind him is Bakhmut. 10 months of fighting, the longest battle of the war in Ukraine. The bloodiest urban combat in Europe in almost 80 years. And his men have taken it. Mercenaries and tens of thousands of convicts recruited from Russian prisons. He has beaten the Ukrainian army where the regular Russian army failed. For one moment, he is the most dangerous man in Russia. Within 5 weeks, he will march on Moscow. Within 3 months, he will be dead. This is the story of what Bakhmut actually cost, and what it bought. You've probably heard Bakhmut described in 2 words. The meat grinder. A city of 70,000, known before the war for salt mines and sparkling wine. For most of a year, both armies pour men into the same few square kilometers. Both sides bleed. Both sides refuse to stop. A mutual slaughter over a town with almost no strategic value. That's the story. 2 armies, 1 machine, equal losses, for nothing. Hold on to that framing. By the end of this video, you'll see why it's wrong, and why the truth is worse. Russian shells start falling on Bakhmut in May 2022. The main assault begins that August. In January 2023, the salt mining town of Soledar falls, threatening Ukraine's supply lines. By spring, the fight is street by street, building by building, until the 20th of May. Depending on how you count, the battle lasted between 224 and 327 days. Even the start date is contested. In this battle, almost everything is. To understand why anyone fought this hard for Bakhmut, look at everywhere else. September 2022. Ukraine's Kharkiv counteroffensive collapses the Russian front in the northeast. November. Russia abandons Kherson, the only regional capital it captured. By winter, Moscow is losing everywhere, except one place. Bakhmut was the last spot where Russia was still attacking, still advancing, still able to claim it was winning. That made a town of negligible military value politically priceless to the Kremlin. For Ukraine, the calculus mirrored it. President Zelensky branded it Fortress Bakhmut, the fortress of national morale. Underneath the slogan was colder logic. Researchers at the Royal United Services Institute tied the decision to hold to the timing of Western weapons decisions. German tanks, above all. Kiev judged that a visible Russian victory right then could slow the flow of aid. Western analysts reached for a comparison. Bakhmut was becoming a Stalingrad, without the importance of Stalingrad. Neither side was fighting for the city. Both were fighting for what the city meant. Each believed the attrition favored them. They could not both be right. What made Bakhmut different from every other battle of this war? The machine Wagner built to take it. It starts in July 2022. Prigozhin personally appears in penal colonies around St. Petersburg and offers inmates a deal. 6 months at the front. Survive, and you walk out pardoned. By January 2023, US intelligence assesses Wagner has around 50,000 fighters in Ukraine. 40,000 are convicts. Here's how they were used. Small assault groups, 8 to 12 men, sometimes up to 50, advance on a Ukrainian position. The first waves are mostly convicts with minimal training. Their job, in effect, is to be shot at. When the defenders open fire, they reveal themselves to the reconnaissance drones overhead. Then the machine responds. 152mm artillery, tank fire, Lancet loitering munitions, diving onto the exposed positions. Behind the convicts, the second Wagner, veteran mercenaries of Syria and Africa, moves up to take the ground. A leaked Ukrainian intelligence assessment described the convicts' role with a single word: bait. The discipline holding this together was medieval. Wounded men were abandoned. Retreat without orders was punishable by execution. Ukraine's own commander at Bakhmut, Alexander Syrsky, described the tactic as constant advancement, however slight, taking no account of human losses. It was brutal, and in dense urban terrain, against a defender who could not trade space, it worked. Meter by meter, the machine chewed forward. The rest of the Russian army was watching. The small group assault doctrine pioneered at Bakhmut became the template Russia still uses today. So what did the machine cost? Officially, almost nothing. As of January 2023, Moscow admitted to roughly 6,000 dead in the entire war. Wagner's convicts weren't even on the books. One rule before the real numbers. A peer-reviewed study of this war's casualty reports measured the bias. Each side inflates the other's losses. Russian sources report barely a third of their own. Every figure that follows passes through that filter. So how do you count the dead of an army that keeps no ledger? Journalists at the BBC Russian service and Mediazona found the answer. Follow the money. $1.3 billion in death payments, coffin payments, traced to families. The result? 19,547 Wagner fighters killed. 17,000 of them recruited from prisons. That figure is corroborated from two directions. The United States assessed over 20,000 Russian dead, 100,000 total casualties between December and May alone. And Prigozhin himself, days after victory, admitted to about 20,000 of his own men killed. 3 sources, 3 methods, 1 converging number. On the Russian side, the fog of war was beaten by accountants. Ukraine is a different story. Kiev has never released a figure for Bakhmut. The by-name documentation project UA Losses has confirmed over 14,000 Ukrainian soldiers killed there. That is a flaw, not a total. Thousands more are listed as missing. NATO estimated Ukraine was losing men at 1/5 the Russian rate. Rusi put the ratio closer to 1 to 4. Treat every ratio as an estimate from an interested party, on both sides. But here is where the meat grinder framing falls apart. 2 armies, 1 machine, equal losses, for nothing. Remember? The losses weren't just unequal in number, they were unequal in kind. Russia spent convicts, men recruited in weeks, expendable by design. Ukraine spent experienced soldiers, the sergeants and veterans of an army that would soon need them desperately. A fighter from Ukraine's 125th Brigade told German reporters his unit lost 84 of 100 men in its first engagement. Even a favourable loss ratio can be a losing trade, if you're paying in a currency you can't replace. Was holding Bakhmut right? Ukraine's own high command couldn't agree. Reporting indicates Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzhny wanted a tactical withdrawal weeks before the end. Save the men, give up the rubble. The President's office and Ground Commander Syrsky chose to hold. Syrsky's own soldiers gave him 2 nicknames for it, the Butcher and General 200 after Cargo 200, the Soviet code for bodies shipped home. The bill came due that summer. A New York Times reconstruction found 5 of Ukraine's 12 new brigades committed to the Bakhmut axis, not the main effort toward Melitopol. The elite formations ground down in the city were spent. The 2023 counteroffensive, the one meant to cut Russia's land bridge to Crimea, failed. Bakhmut is not the only reason, it is one of them. And Russia's prize? Look at what the victory actually purchased. Within days of the fall, Ukraine counterattacked the flanks and took back the high ground. The next town west, Chasiv Yar, sits on a ridge. Russia wouldn't assault it for nearly a year and wouldn't claim it for over 2. There was no breakthrough. The road to Kramatorsk stayed shut. And the force that took the city? 5 weeks after victory, Prigozhin's feud with the Ministry of Defense exploded into open mutiny. The ammunition starvation, the screaming videos filmed beside his own dead. Wagner columns seized a military headquarters and drove to within 200 kilometers of Moscow. Then they turned back. 2 months later, Prigozhin's plane fell out of the sky. Wagner was dissolved and absorbed. Russia's reward for the longest battle of the war, a destroyed city it couldn't exploit, and the destruction of the only force that had proven it could win. The meat grinder was real. It was never mutual. And it paid nobody.